eager to create new things. Like a painter. Okay, that's for me. Painting, it's designing new things. It has to be innovative, some new idea in terms of the concept, in terms of how you work on it, different angles, aspect of the same things. If it's not something new, I wouldn't touch it.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Turing, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and in media partnership with CTech. We're back to talking about autonomous vehicles, but with a different lens, and we're going to talk about Tactile. In fact, we're going to be talking with Boaz Mizrachi, the founder and CTO of Tactile Mobility, formerly MobiWize. He is a veteran technologist and entrepreneur with over 2 decades of experience in signal processing, algorithms research, and systems design in the automotive and networking industries. Prior to founding Tactile Mobility, Boaz was System Design Group Manager for Zoran Micro-Electronics, acquired by CSR. Boaz Mizrachi, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you today?
Thank you. Feeling great. Sun is shining. Everything is nice. The office is working. So happy to speak to you.
Are you in the Tactile Mobility office?
Yes. Just hold on a second. Let me show you around.
Please.
Yeah.
Give me a tour.
This is like a show tour. Okay, so for a Haifa office, it looks very promising. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Boaz, before we get to talk about autonomous vehicles and this extra layer that we chatted a little bit before, which is not necessarily in the mainstream, but it is a very significant part of the autonomous vehicle world. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how your journey led you to being the CTO of Tactile Mobility and getting into this autonomous vehicle space.
Right. So since childhood, I think I love technology. Okay, I started with computer science or programming, let's call it, with the first personal computers ever. And then, but also worked on hardware side, architecture, systems. So since childhood, I'm looking at almost every aspect of design, of the high-tech design. So from that point and on, like during the high school and then even during the army service and then afterwards studies, etc. So it was always trying to initiate new ideas. Most of them are like stupid, but some, worked. So
was it primarily curiosity, or why, just keep starting new ideas? Was it to perhaps start a company, or just to mere curiosity to see how technology works? What was it?
Merely curiosity and the eager to create new things. Like a painter. Okay, that's for me. Painting, it's designing new things. It has to be innovative, some new idea. In terms of the concept, in terms of how you work on it, different angles, aspect of the same things. If it's not something new, I wouldn't touch it normally.
Right, and so you go through your career. You're doing your bachelor's and your master's, I believe, in the Technion. Do you know that autonomous vehicles is going to be a big part of your life, or vehicles and automation in general?
No, definitely not. I've started with the networking industry, like routers, switches, algorithms for networking. That was my study. That was the master's degree I was working on. And later on, the first startup I was founder of, like co-founding with my colleagues, named the Charlotte's Web Networks. So for like 6 or 7 years, we were working on terabit routers, like the biggest ones. And I was in charge of the hardware design there, like in charge of the ASIC design, board design, system design, all the aspects from these microcontrollers and the FPGAs up to the big systems, like 4 kilowatt of power consumption, rack mounted. So at the end of the day, that was my passion. Later on, after some exit with that
When you
company.
say that was your passion, and I have to delay on that, because when you say that was my passion, what are you referring to really? Is it the extensive hardware, the energy, the how much energy you're consuming, the fact that you're providing network to people, that you're cutting edge technology? Which part was the passion at that moment?
Yeah, I think that mostly it's the cutting edge technology to do something that nobody did before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like creating the highest bandwidth of routing devices. Terabit router, at that time it was something huge. So that was the passion. I mean, to take, for example, just the board design. Let's talk about board design. The first boards that we have designed were like 30 by 40 centimeters, 32 layers. It was something extraordinary for the Israeli industry. I mean, we were the first, I think, to design and build such hardware, PCB. So, getting through all these obstacles was the passion, I think.
I'm asking about the transition from networking to a different industry. No longer you're dealing with now with the same technology. It's still cutting edge, but why do that?
Right. So as I mentioned, I like to solve puzzles. Okay, I like to get some challenges and try with my tools, try to solve it. So back at that day, like 12 years ago, I think, I was supervising some project student at the Technion, where they tried to solve some problem or to assist with identifying overspeeding of a car approaching a stop sign, for example, okay, and then informing the driver.
Yeah.
And they said that this is not interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try and solve some more interesting in that field. For example, that I gave them, like, how do we save fuel? Okay, so back at that time, the fuel prices were very expensive, and everybody looked into, reducing fuel consumption and the emissions, of course. So I try to solve a problem. Let's take a vehicle from point A to point B with minimal fuel consumption. Okay, that simple problem. Now I didn't know anything almost about vehicles, about roads, about nothing, about maps, but it was very interesting. So while trying to solve it, what I figured out is that you don't have any information about the surface, like there is no decent map for road grades, for example, or curvature, etc. And you don't have information about the vehicle. What is the optimal driving configurations, like, for example, gear position or engine torque, RPM, etc., that will lead you at a specific conditions for the minimal fuel consumption, like engine efficiency profile.
Right.
So then I drilled down and started to build the building blocks. Okay, let's first map the road. Let's map the road grades. Once I have the road grades, then I can use it to characterize the fuel consumption. But even the fuel consumption of the vehicle wasn't something available on the sensors in the vehicle. And when you try to use the existing sensors, the inaccuracy there was huge, like 30%. And if you want to save 5% of fuel and you have error of 30%, then you are deep into the signal to noise ratio problem. Okay. So tried to solve these building blocks. And it turned out a couple of years later that these building blocks were very, very important. Okay, like people didn't want to save fuel anymore, but can you map the world? Can you map road grades accurately? Can you map the surface out of the existing sensors in the vehicle? Can you map the performance of the vehicle? Okay, my specific vehicle very accurately. That was some very interesting building block for the industry, and this is how it started to roll. So we started as an aftermarket device company, okay, like building small toys, a telematics system to plug into the CAN bus in the car, collect some maybe interesting data, and then deliver it to the cloud.
So when you're saying aftermarket device, you're referring to this idea that somebody purchases a car and then you have a third-party tool that they can just purchase from a gas station or Amazon, and they can install it in their car to get some extra layers of information and security or whatever.
Exactly. And this is how we started. And my, very decent and, modest dream was to be able, to sell thousands of boxes like this. And with this money, to run a small company, like a family company, a family business, and continue from there. But it turned out that such a business is more complicated than I thought of, on one hand, to get a break even. And on the other hand, the information that we've generated there was too sophisticated for simple fleet management, telematics operation. So the OEMs, the car manufacturers, were very interested in this technology. So, like on 2014, that was the first time that a scout from Ford Motors approached me and asked me if I can help them with the mapping surface.
Really?
Yes, and with mapping the vehicle performance in order to provide, let's say, some basic building block technology for an adaptive cruise control application. So it's like a cruise control, sorry, a predictive cruise control. It's like an adaptive cruise control, but the speed will be determined according to the future horizon. So, like if you are about to go into a steep hill or down the hill or something like this, and then the gear position and the gas throttle will be pre-configured according to the horizon ahead of you, targeting fuel saving. Okay, so the first car roaming around will map the road grades. The second car that will go there, or the same car the second time, will know the horizon ahead of it and then use that information in order to save fuel.
So take me a little bit higher and paint me a little bit about the autonomous vehicle ecosystem. We have quite a few amazing companies working in that field. What is happening and where is Tactile Mobility within this ecosystem?
Right. So from like 6 or 7 years ago, when we started working with OEMs, and the fuel saving wasn't something to write home about, then at that point, the industry went into this area of autonomous vehicles. And as you look at it, you see that most of the startups or the innovative companies are within the sensing layers of this industry. So try to sense what there is in the car, the environment of the car, in front of the car, etc. On top of that, there is a layer for taking decisions, and on top of that, the actuations. Okay, what do we do with this information? Now, out of the first layer of the sensing layer, most of the companies you will see today are within the visual sensing. And when I say visual, it's pixels. The pixel can stand for depth, it's LiDAR or radar, it can stand for color, of course, and brightness. This is camera, like MobiWize, for example. And it can stand for even a heat, okay, like infrared or something like that. Even ultrasonic, you can look at that as like pixel generation. But most of the information you can see through your eyes, okay? So it's like visual information as a driver.
Right.
But some of the information, you need some other means of sensing in order to acquire this information. Okay. For example, when you try to think about yourself driving a car remotely, okay, like sitting out of the car and trying to drive it just with the visual, like camera and screens around you, you miss the feel of the car, okay? You don't feel the road surface, you don't
Right.
feel the car itself, and you don't feel the combination, the interaction between them. Now, as for the visual, like 40, 50 years ago, people started formalizing it, like inventing the pixels as letters in this language, inventing macro blocks, frames, etc. And on top of this language, you can, of course, share information and do a lot of calculation, like machine learning, etc. But nobody so far formalized the other senses, okay? How does your car will feel the road surface, okay? And when I say feel the road, we need to have the attributes of the road surface. So for example, the friction coefficient, okay? What's the friction coefficient or the grip level between the surface and my tires, okay?
Yep.
What is the status of my tires now, okay? I mean, your tires are different than mine. Even yours, day after day, they are different. So the combination of your current tire and the current situation of the road that changes dramatically, maybe due to weather conditions, this is something to take into care. So tactile mobility.
By the way, Boaz, before when you were talking about, driving the car remotely, I was picturing myself driving the car on Ayalon. And at the same time, I was picturing myself driving the car remotely in Lake Tahoe when it's snowing.
Yes.
And how, the house, because I'm so scared driving there when it's snowing, that I'm saying, like, if I don't, and so many senses go into feeling the road, understanding how to turn, when to slow down, when to speed up, that you just don't get that simply with the visuals. It's really a lot of it with the feeling of where your steering wheel is taking you.
You know, talking about stories, like we are working for the past 4 years almost with the BMW about our technology, and soon, like next month, we'll have the first BMW vehicle rolling out of the production with tactile inside, with our software inside, that provides
Wow.
this vehicle with the sense of the surface and the sense of the vehicle. We call that surface DNA and vehicle DNA. And the combination of the two
Wow.
gives more ability to the BMW car. And by the way, it will be installed in every BMW car, all the fleet, from Mini to Rolls-Royce to all the BMW in between.
Wow.
And the first one will be next March. So, I mean, during these 4 years working with these guys, we were traveling to the north of Sweden to a village named Arjeplog in Lapland, where you have a lot of frozen lakes. Each OEM car manufacturer has its own frozen lake that they can conduct a lot of testing in extreme conditions of like minus 40 degrees, as well as low visibility, as well as, of course, low friction coefficient there. And there is a road there that is called the Silver Road or the Silver Wagen, as the German OEMs call it. And this road is the holy grail of the grip detection. Why? Because it gets frozen and defrost like from 1 meter to another, okay? So, and you don't see it. It's like black ice. It's black ice
Wow.
totally. So just drive on top of that. And sometimes it's like you can fly out of the road because it's frozen. And then a few meters afterwards, it's not. And it depends if, a few cars ahead of you drove there. So all the tests for tactile mobility, like the high-end tests, we were conducting on this Silver Road in the north of Lapland. So, by the way, it's very amazing, to see these cars drifting on top of frozen lakes. From my perspective, it was an amazing experience.
I can only imagine. You see, and then they say that people who have startups don't have fun. I don't. That's I can only imagine being there. Thank you for coming. It's a. It's been I've had such a good time, and I'm excited to go and dig deep and actually learn about this extra layer to vehicles and maintenance and understanding, what driving is all about through these extra senses. I have a few last questions for you, but thank you for coming here. What would be one of your favorite subjects in middle school or high school?
I think it was the software programming. Back then, maybe 35 years ago, maybe more, It was the languages were COBOL and Pascal. So that was my favorite subject there.
Wonderful. And who would be a role model of yours, or somebody that inspires you in some way?
I think Elon Musk. And I didn't think about it before like this, but during the past couple of years, you see that this guy with some positive craziness drive the entire world crazy. If it's just the
Yeah.
Bitcoin or the Dogecoin or going to the moon, traveling to the moon, and or of course the Tesla cars. So you see somebody with vision that actually turns the earth a little bit to a different direction. So I can admire such people.
Definitely. And what would be 3 words that you would choose to describe yourself?
I think modesty, honesty, and inspiration. That's if I would try to.
Modesty, honesty, and inspiration. Yofi. Boaz, toda rabba. Thank you very, very much. This was great. I loved it. Amazing. Huge mazal tov and congratulations on the BMW cars that are going to roll out next month. I'm sure that after 9 years of working on tactile mobility, it's quite a big emotional sensation. Sure. And so I'm getting excited just hearing about it. Thank you for sharing this time with me, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you very, very much for having me in your studio, and toda rabba.
Of course.